Hey YouTube, today I'm finally choosing a substrate for the 125 gallon planted tank. Stay tuned. My name is Jake and this is Raccoon Creek Aquatics, where we cover aquarium topics in general and planted tanks in particular. I have a lot of exciting projects going on right now, including the step-by-step series, so if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing so you don't miss any of it. This is episode 2 of a series covering the step-by-step process of my 125 gallon planted tank. Today we're choosing a substrate for this planted tank, but before we do, I need to make sure I get this aquarium leveled. Leveling your aquarium is important for 2 reasons. The first reason is cosmetic. In my opinion, a diagonal water line across the top of an unleveled tank can ruin an otherwise beautiful aquarium. The other reason leveling your aquarium is important is, I'll say, structural integrity. Having that unlevel aquarium actually puts more water pressure onto the sides and corners of your tank. This added pressure over time can actually cause the glass of your aquarium to crack. Keep in mind that you really don't have to worry as much about a 5 gallon aquarium because there's not as much water volume to add that much pressure. In tanks that small, it's pretty much strictly cosmetic. However, I definitely want to level this 125 gallon tank, which is 6 foot long and 18 inches wide. To do the job of leveling this tank, I'm using a hammer, wooden shims, and a 4 foot level. First, I took the 4 foot level to check how this aquarium was sitting. The level showed we were good for a side to side length of the tank. However, it showed we were off from front to back. The tank was leaning forward. To fix this, I shimmed up the front of the tank stand. I used a hammer to help get the shims under the tank stand. Keep in mind, I'm doing this on concrete floor in my garage. If you have nice hardwood floor or any other floor that you don't want to mess up, you need to be careful. And although it's not required, I recommend doing a majority of the leveling before you fill the aquarium with water. As I worked across the front of the tank stand to level the aquarium, I continued to monitor my progress by checking the level. I also think it's important to note that I place these shims about every 6 inches or so. This will help distribute the weight across the front of the tank instead of just a few points taking on the burden. Once you're finished, you can then cut the shims that may be sticking out from under your tank stand. Now that the tank is level, we can finally turn our attention to the substrate. There are so many options for aquarium substrates that I've really gone back and forth between what I want to use for this tank. Keep in mind, this is going to be a planted tank, so I want this substrate to be nutrient rich so I can feed my plants at their roots. A great nutrient-rich substrate is ADA Aquasoil. ADA Aquasoil is a premium substrate that can provide excellent results. There's only one problem. It's pretty expensive. Plus I wanted to try something that I'd never used before. So I decided to use earthworm castings to feed my plants at their roots. This will provide a great source of nutrients for my plants. However, I'm going to need to cap it. For a cap to this substrate, I plan to use fluorite sand. And while it does contain some minerals that are beneficial for plants, I would not consider this a major provider of macronutrients. The first step to applying this substrate was to spread out the earthworm castings. I left a couple inches along the sides and front of the aquarium because I'd rather see the decorative fluorite sand and not the ugly earthworm castings. When I spread out the earthworm castings, I only went about 1 inch deep, or about to my first knuckle on my index finger. Now it was time for the fluorite sand. I have a few words of advice when it comes to this. Rinse it, and rinse it well. I felt like I spent forever rinsing this stuff, and it will probably still cause a little bit of a mess when I finally go to fill this tank. I think it gets to a point where you rinse it until you get to a level of messiness you can deal with. When I was finally done rinsing, it was time to cover up the earthworm castings. I went maybe an inch, inch and a half deep on top of the earthworm castings. So that brought my total depth to about 2.5 inches. So that's the substrate I'm going with in this tank. I think I'm really going to like the reddish tint of this substrate against the black background. Let me know with a comment down below what you would use for a substrate if this were your tank. Next in this series we'll be covering lighting and filtration for this tank. I also have a lot of other exciting things happening on this channel, so I just want to remind you to hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. I'll see you next time.